Hi guys, let me start off by saying I'm very excited to be making this video. Happy New Year. I hope you enjoyed your holidays and your new year. It's the 2nd of January over here and I had a wonderful time. I can only hope that you guys had as well. So as you've seen the title, I finally finished Reverend Insanity. For those who are new here, like you've not seen my previous videos, especially the video I made about Reverend Insanity, you should go check that out, by the way. I am a very big fan of Reverend Insanity, written by gushing, a web novel, a masterpiece, just an amazing work of art in general. So I finished Reverend Insanity like quite a while back, actually. I think September or maybe a bit longer, a few months ago. I've not been uploading on this channel for a while, so I've not really had the chance to talk about it. But I actually finished it, and then I even went back to reread the novel just to see if there were some things I wanted to talk about and everything. And to be honest, I think I got to volume 3 before I stopped again, which is where I am at the moment. And there are a lot of things I liked about Reverend Insanity. There are, of course, a lot of things. But this video is not going to be a comprehensive review. It's not going to be a breakdown, a critical analysis. It's just going to be my general thoughts on Reverend Insanity. As we go on, you'll see more of what I mean. So, there'll be spoilers ahead. Big warning over there. Reverend Insanity has 2,234 chapters, if I'm correct. 2,334 chapters actually. So it is a very lengthy novel. So there's a lot to talk about. Of course, I can't talk about every single thing in this video, but I'll just like to give my general thoughts on just the broad scope of the novel. Stuff like my favorite characters, my favorite arcs, my thoughts on this, my thought on that, and I hope you enjoyed the video. So without further ado, let's begin with talking about the main character, of course, Fang Yuan. So who is Fang Yuan? Why am I doing this introduction? Let me just speak. So Fang Yuan is the main character of Reverend Insanity, and he's an amazing character. Dare I say, the best written character in all of fiction. And it is amazing because Fang Yuan should not work naturally. Like normally, a character like Fang Yuan should be a bad character. There's a general rule in fiction when writing your main character or just writing characters in general, and that is progression. You've heard this statement many times of character development or character growth and everything, because there's a general rule for the most part, because human beings are dynamic, human beings evolve, human beings change. A core aspect of your character is that your character should grow and change. But Fang Yuan does not grow. It does not change, at least for the most part. He is a stagnant character, and that is a core element to who he is. The same way a rock remains still and stable regardless of a storm, the same way a mountain remains firm regardless of whatever happens, is how Fang Yuan is. It is well represented by perseverance, goo, and just the core themes of the story, staying true to oneself. And Fang Yuan's self is constant. It is stagnant. It remains the same from beginning to the story, from beginning of the story to the end of the story, and that is a core element, a core aspect of Reverend Insanity. Now that I've gotten that out of the way, let me talk about the little bit of change that I noticed in Fang Yuan. Like I said, Fang Yuan doesn't really change, but there is a shift, a tonal shift from the beginning part of the novel to the end part of the novel. I actually saw it on Content Savant's channel. Content Savant is a fellow YouTuber. He talks about Reverend Insanity. You should go check him out. And on Content Savant's channel, initially I couldn't really believe it, because he said in his own words that Fang Yuan actually changes a bit, and that has to do with his attitude towards killing, its attitude towards the demonic path. From volume 1, volume 2, you see Fang Yuan really like praising the demonic path and talking about what it means to be a demon, demonic and demonic nature, all of those things. But the more you go on, it's less Machiavellian and less sinister and just more utilitarian. Like, of course, Fang Yuan has never been one to enjoy killing. It's not like spectral soul demon Venerable that thrives. It has such a murderous nature. No, but still, from the early parts of Reverend Insanity, you still see Fang Yuan display a certain level of malevolence. But towards the later parts of Reverend Insanity, Fang Yuan just has almost general apathy, right? Like, he is so utilitarian that, I mean, some have even compared him to a machine, which I disagree with. I don't think he's like a machine or anything. But because of the scope of the world, it has grown so large that Fang Yuan's concerns are less about even people or mortals and everything. He has so many people living in his immortal aperture. He has so many things going on that it is very difficult to even call him evil at that point, because one, almost everyone is pretty much, doing the same thing. It's just that Fang Yuan is more shameless, and more ruthless, but he is not ruthless in the sense that in the way we saw him in the earlier part. But apart from that, Fang Yuan remains the same, and I love him for that. I love every part, like from volume 1 to volume 6. Every display of Fang Yuan is excellent. One other thing I'd like to mention is I love how the author really held off on talking about Fang Yuan's past life. Like we didn't know anything about Fang Yuan's past life until I believe volume 5, when we started exploring the dream realms in like greater detail. That's when we started knowing more about Fang Yuan's past. And it really helps you set up the character, because without knowing Fang Yuan's past, without knowing what this guy has been through, yet the author has managed to make him a compelling person, so that when you see him, when you see how he thinks and everything, you begin to wonder what would have made this person this way. It's different from other regression stories where the emphasis is as much of the main character's past as it is the present. But Reverend Insanity does not hold your hand to show you, oh, Fang Yuan had suffered in the past, Fang Yuan had experienced this and that. No, it gives you straight the current Fang Yuan, and then later on, volume 5, over 1,000 chapters in, we now see, oh, this is actually what Fang Yuan has been through, and this is who Fang Yuan used to be. So that's that. Fang Yuan generally is an amazing character, well written. I love him. Let's talk about before I go into the best parts of Reverend Insanity, let's talk about the worst arcs in my opinion, and the worst volumes, the weakest. Now, every arc in Reverend Insanity is pretty decent, and every volume is stellar, but there has to be a last place. In the past, I used to think volume 1 was around that third position in my preference, but right now, like as I'm reading the volumes, I would say volume 1 is actually last place. It is the worst volume. Doesn't mean it's a bad volume. It's actually a very, very good volume. But I just realized that a lot of things in volume 1 is similar to other Shansha novels. Like it's not as unique. Like it's not as captivating. It's not as, like, Reverend Insanity does not fully shine in volume 1, and that's because everything is on King Mao Mountain. Everything is so limited, and we are just in the politics, we are just getting into this world, so we are easing into the world of Reverend Insanity, and so it's unavoidable that you find a lot of cliches, you find a lot of things that are very similar to other novels and everything. And then where Reverend Insanity really begins to separate itself from every other novel is from volume 2 and the rest upward, because volume 1, we see the thing of like aptitude, which I see in a lot of Chansha novels. We see, the elder brother, the family bullying him. So like it's just after reading a lot of novels, when you go back to volume 1, you realize volume 1 is not as excellent as the other volumes. So volume 1 has to be in last place. It still has a lot of philosophical takes that I love. It still has a lot of concepts, but if you read volume 1 after finishing Reverend Insanity, you will notice the drop in quality. Like, you will notice, I don't know how to explain this, but there are a lot of concepts that have not been fleshed out in volume 1. But as you go on reading, you see them being more fleshed out, and you see them being more explained, and it becomes a lot better. Like me knowing everything that happens in Reverend Insanity and going back to volume 1, it just feels like I know it's not the same. Like, the author has clearly evolved as a writer. The story has evolved. So going back to the earlier parts, there is a clear difference. Doesn't mean volume 1 is bad by any means. I still love volume 1, but you can just clearly tell. As for my worst arc, definitely Northern Plains arc, or pre-Imperial Cause Blessed Land. Like, Northern Plains arc is notorious for being a drag because of just how many irrelevant battles that exist in Northern Plains arc. Now, there are some really nice moments, but when I was rereading Reverend Insanity, I really noticed how I did not care for a lot of these battles, and honestly, most of them didn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. But when it comes to the enslavement path and explaining more of the world, I can see why it is so relevant for world building. But when you focus so much on these characters that actually do not really matter in the grand scheme of things, I feel like I just didn't really care for them. So yeah, it's over there. Then of course the dream realm exploration to raise attainment levels, I also didn't really care much for that. Of course, seeing some dream realms were entertaining, but some just felt like filler. And the whole attainment level stuff, which I'll get into in the video, I just have some gripes with it. But overall, Dream Realm Exploration. Some were good, some is a mixed bag, honestly. So also some of my that's like those are my worst arcs and worst volumes of Reverend Science. Now let's get to the good stuff. Let's talk about favorite volumes. So I have three favorite volumes. It's difficult. I can't even say one is my best volume. Like a particular one is my best volume. They are just so good. They have their own charms. If I was to pick, like if I was choked down, of course everyone says volume 5. I would say it's between volume 5 and volume 4. But volume 6 is also a good contender because I really like volume 6 as well. So yeah, as you can tell, my favorite volumes are volume 5, volume 6, and volume 4. Those three are my favorite volumes. Volume 4, the zombie arc is so good. I keep saying I keep saying it, but I can't stop. Zombie arc is so good. Like Fang Yuan being a zombie pick. And everybody keeps dreading it. But I don't know why. Like, seeing the progression of Fang Yuan, trying to get rid of his zombie body and become better. It's just chef's kiss. I love it so much. And then because there are a lot of concepts that get expanded on in the zombie arc, and then a lot of things that happen. For example, Heavenly Court appears, so many things. The world of the immortals becomes bigger. Just generally like a lot of things. I just love volume 4. It gives us a lot of cool moments. Volume 5 also gives us a lot. It is volume 5. It gives us too many cool moments, whether it is perseverance, whether it's of course that was when the sovereign immortal aperture, like all of those things. So this Valkyrie gets the sovereign immortal body, and a lot of shit goes down in volume 5. We look at Fate was one of my favorite arcs. Look at Blue Dragon Whale arc, also one of my favorite arcs. So all of those things, volume 5 is solid. Volume 6, need I say more? The highlight of volume 6, when I first started volume 6, I didn't really see the hype, but the closer we got to Crazy Demon Cave, and then when we got to Crazy Demon Cave, and then post Crazy Demon Cave with the reign of the three venerables, that was peak. I will not lie, that was peak. And it ends in such a cliffhanger, right? When I say I finished Reverend Science, I mean I've gotten to the last chapter. Reverend Science is not over because the author the book was banned. The author had to stop at some point. But getting to the end was crazy because the cliffhanger, if the cliffhanger was too insane. So that was the author did us dirty. It didn't stop at a part where we could be at ease. How can you tell me, like I said, there will be spoilers, but for those who know, how can you tell me it ends with Fang Yuan destroying, blowing up Heavenly Court and saying it will kill all the Heavenly Court immortals? Like, you can't stop there. You can't. Well, in any case, so volume 6 also peak. So those are my three favorite volumes. Then let's look at my favorite arcs. So I have like 3 favorite arcs. I think I've already mentioned pretty much all of them. Fate was, Blue Dragon Whale arc, and Zombie arc. Zombie arc is pretty much volume 4, but like it counts as its own arc because everyone keeps saying Zombie arc. So yeah, it's one of my favorite arcs. And also, let's start. Crazy Demon Cave is also one of. The Venerable. We see Venerables actually dishing it out to each other. That was really peak. So and so many Venerables died too. Like when you start looking at the chapters, Paradise Earth dies, Limitless dies, Fang Yuan becomes Venerable. Like the way the chapters are just stacked. One complaint I will have about Crazy Demon Cave, which I didn't like, was this tangent where we keep going back to Elolan. Elolan is a great character, honestly, but she has become one of my worst characters because the author seems to have a fixation on her. She's an okay character, she's fine, but I do not see how compelling she is that the author focuses entire chapters, entire storylines on her. I do not understand. Elolan is not that compelling to me. How are we in Crazy Demon Cave, doing some stuff that are really important to the story, and the author seems to think we want to see her fighting Chudu? No one cares about Elolan versus Chudu. We don't care. So I genuinely, I don't know why. I think the author has like preferential treatment towards Elolan, to the point where he actually stopped paying emphasis on Binding Bing, who is a very well written character and one of my favorite characters, and started paying more emphasis on Elolan. I do not understand the glaze. I do not like Elolan too much. I like that at first, she was alright, but when the author started giving her too much preferential treatment, it just turned into like she turned into a whatever character, and I stopped liking her as much. So let me stop the rant. The reason why Zombie Arc is one of my favorites, I mean, it's clear, like Zombie Arc is so good. Fang Yuan becomes a zombie. He wants to figure out how to become a human again, and then he goes through a lot of stuff. We see a lot of shadow sex schemes, zombie alliance. We see a lot of stuff happen, and eventually Fang Yuan is caught in the midst of everything. And at the end, I think the end of Zombie Arc. No, the problem is the end of every arc is so good. Zombie Arc, I think, has one of the most abrupt ends, because the end of Zombie Arc bleeds into the beginning of volume 5. Like, it's just one chapter. Like, it's like what happens in this chapter and then the next chapter, volume 5, is like so connected that it's not, but it is such a cliffhanger, because Fang Yuan gets his sovereign immortal body. Then I've forgotten his name. That dream realm physique. He gets Fang Yuan's zombie body, and then Fang Yuan wins. Then the guy self-detonates. Like, what? Like, the moment he self-detonated, I was shocked to my bones. I was like, oh no! Like, so the end was the most unique. I would say the most unique end, because, and then the start of volume 5, the guy being in the River of Time, talking to Spectral Soul and getting to know how Evans will really schemed against everyone and everything. It's a crazy thing, and honestly, peak. So I loved every part of Zombie Arc. Blue Dragon Whale Arc was one of my favorites, because honestly, it didn't have the most action, it didn't have the most interesting characters and anything, but that was where we get to see pure Fang Yuan, like Fang Yuan in his purest form. Blue Dragon Whale Arc, we saw his past, we saw his present, we saw the philosophy, and it has, I think, till date, no, that's not my favorite Reverend Insanity quote. It's my second favorite Reverend Insanity quote. My first favorite Reverend Insanity quote was the whole because hardship strengthen resolve, the strong-minded will not be lured by worldly affairs. Today I step on grass, later I step on mountains and rivers. From today I will walk on the path of supremacy, sweep the earth and laugh at the world, tread the green mountains, step on the blue seas, bind the blue dragon, assault the sky, bathe in difficulties and something the demonic soul, bathed in difficulty and I've forgotten something the demonic soul, then something and sing in triumph, refine heaven, refine faith, refine the universe. So I really love that. That was my favorite quote. And then my next favorite quote is from Blue Dragon Whale Arc, when it talks about staying true to yourself. If you want to be kind, be kind. If you want to fly, go and buy flying goo and practice. You do yourself. If you want to walk down the alley and dance. And it's a beautiful, how you should not constantly wear a mask and mistreat yourself, but you should ask yourself what it is that you want to do and do it. I think that just represents the core of Reverend Insanity, the general theme of true self, staying true to yourself. And honestly, it's a beautiful monologue from Fang Yuan. It is so deep. Like Blue Dragon Whale Arc, I think it made me cry, or almost made me cry, because I think that's where it gets most personal for a lot of readers. Blue Dragon Whale Arc. And then Fate was the end game, the Avengers Infinity War type of stuff. It is like the big battle. The Fate War, first Fate War, second Fate War. Both are really, like, I love first Fate War because of the unpredictability of things. But second Fate, when I went to second Fate War, and Fang Yuan was already correcting some of his mistakes and I thought the tension would not. But for some reason, the tension even went higher in second Fate War because of so many other new variables that I did not even consider in the first Fate War. My favorite part, I think, first Fate War had this part where Duke Long actually won. They repaired Fate Gu, and he was holding Fate Gu, and he was crying, and he was happy, and he was like, that desperation, that gladness, that relief. I really love that in first Fate War. And the despair, how like the Heavenly Court won, it was insane. But second Fate War had one of the best conclusions, where everybody was entrusting Fang Yuan to destroy Fate go. And the how everyone was speaking, how Gushing was like everybody, enemies, allies, all of them had a united heart. They wanted to destroy Fate, and it was such a beautiful moment. The tension was palpable. I really love Fate. So those are my 3 favorite arcs. Let's talk about next. I'll tell you my favorite characters. Of course, Fang Yuan is of course going to be one of them. Then, but apart from Fang Yuan, I have apart from Fang Yuan, I have Bai Bing. I really like Bai Bing. Like, a lot of people don't like her because she betrayed Fang Yuan, but bro, like, she's our own character, and it has really been established. Like, Bai Bing is a mirror for Fang Yuan, but the author sort of, like, I don't know if he forgot that, but he let her go. Like, he truly about. When I look at Fang Yuan's mirror, I don't look at Fang Zheng. I actually don't really care for Fang Zheng. You know, he's further to me. The author, I think I know what the author is trying to do. You know, creating a parallel with Fang Yuan and Fang Zheng. But I just don't really care too much for Fang Zheng. Binding Bing though is the perfect mirror. Like, she's he or she or whatever, but I'll say she's such a good and compelling character. From volume 1, we can just see how she's developing, how the author developed her. Volume 2, she grew even more. And then, like, I really had high hopes of Binding Bing. It's just that I feel like the author, like I said, started favoring Ilolan and put too much emphasis on Ilolan and gave Ilolan the screen time and development he should have given Binding Bing, because Binding Bing is a much better character than Ilolan. So I really like Binding Bing. I like a dynamic with Fang Yuan. I remember when they went to, oh my goodness, I've forgotten this grotto heaven that they went to. But when they went to this grotto heaven and Fang Yuan had this discussion, and Fang Yuan, and she was like telling Fang Yuan that he's the only one that can understand that and that. And Fang Yuan also said like he actually knows Binding Bing is like him. Like, Fang Yuan has this kinship with Binding Bing, because remember when Binding Bing was about to self detonate on King Mao Mountain, she entrusted the excitement stuff to Fang Yuan, like her will to Fang Yuan. And Fang Yuan was wondering that if he was also going to die, would he also entrust the eternal life stuff, his own path to her and everything. Binding Bing is someone Fang Yuan deeply respects and admires. He actually, like, Binding Bing is like him, just a mirror, just like they are just following different paths. Binding Bing is weaker, of course, less intelligent, of course, and, you know, much less impressive, has far less perseverance and all of those things compared to Fang Yuan. But I just cannot help but see her as a much more compelling character, especially how she outsmarted Fang. Like, the author was cooking with Binding Bing in the earlier volumes. How she outsmarted Fang Yuan in volume 2, was that not insane? But Binding Bing, as the story progresses, she loses her agency for a lot of the parts. You know, she has to tag along with this person. I really wanted her to be a force to be reckoned with, but it seems like she's always someone else's pawn. But Reverend is not over. I feel like maybe the author will have more plans for Binding Bing. But compared to Binding Bing, Ilolan seems to have more agency, and I just don't like that. Genuinely, Binding Bing deserves a lot more. Then, apart from Binding Bing, of course, Duke Long. Need I say more? The master of aura himself. Of course, true Purple Mountain Monarch also really, like, is a good runner-up. But when I look at both of them, you know, Duke Long just had more screen time, more character development, and just more emotional investment. Duke Long, crazy guy. A lot of emotions displayed in Reverend Science comes from him. At first, I did not like him because he killed true Purple Mountain Monarch. I did not like him. I did not like, but later on, he grew on me. And when I got to see things from his perspective, how much he sacrificed, really, like, I really respect the guy. Good. Then Tai Bai Yunsheng, need I say more as well, you know. Like, the author did him dirty during, you know, the whole reverse flow river thing, but he really, you know, it was like a goat, you know, really helped Fang Yuan. It was really there, was like Fang Yuan's bro, like, such a kind, such a lovely character. Then Wu Shihai, you know, of course, the worst part is that Wu Shihai does not even have much screen time. Like, it's just like a few chapters worth of screen time, but his story is so tragic and so deep that I just have to put him there. And him being Fang Yuan's clone is just so perfectly fitting. For many people, he is their favorite clone, and for good reason. And, like, for me, I would say he's also my favorite clone. I think second one would be the ancestor one that Fang Yuan is Fang Yuan's first like persona. But yes, Kissy ancestor would be my second favorite. But Wuxia is definitely. Oh no. There's this guy too that wears Reckless Savage's the cloak. I really that guy has so much aura. That clone has so much aura. I really like him too. But yeah, those three are my favorite clones. Then last favorite character is Renzu. Renzu. The guy is dumb. He makes so many mistakes. But I just love reading him. Like I just love, the philosophical connotations as well. But I just love reading Renzu. So also one of my favorite characters. Then my favorite venerables. Let me start with Spectral Soul. Like anybody who has read Reverend Insanity but does not like Spectral Soul, I have to ask, what did you read? Because Spectral Soul is so goated. Spectral Soul is it's so good. It's so cool. Like there are smarter characters in Reverend Insanity for sure, but Spectral Soul has so much like volume. An entire volume was legit dedicated to this guy. Volume 4's entire plot was Spectral Soul. Spectral Soul is so smart, so goated, so powerful. It was such a threat in volume 4 and early parts of volume 5 until all the other venerables started poking their head and making him seem less significant. But Spectral Soul, I love him. His murderous nature, his ambition. Like this guy was going to refine rank 10 goo. He has balls. He has like I love Spectral Soul. Now he's just like a monster, just slumbering around. But even then, even at his lowest, the guy destroyed the sun. Which of your goats, which of your venerables can do that? The guy, I will never stop glazing Spectral Soul. He is so good. I love him so much. Then Limitless. Like bro, Limitless is so good. Like he did not appear for too long. Like clearly, he just showed up, ate chaos, did some shit, talked about stuff, and left. But I just love the guy. He's one, of course, he schemed against the good world. He outsmarted everyone. Even became a quasi rank 10 go immortal. Became the strongest in the verse for a brief moment before dying. But in the brief moment he appeared, it was so good. And I think Limitless just exemplifies another kind of Fang Yuan. Like, because Limitless also has a goal of eternal life, but it represents the Fang Yuan that fails, well, of course, Fang Yuan is different from Limitless. Limitless is different from Fang Yuan. They are different characters generally. But from what I see from Limitless, it's just this, is to show just how difficult eternal life is. Like, I think it's just so compelling because it displays just how difficult Fang Yuan's path will be and how impossible it is. But Limitless definitely is definitely. He's so smart. He's so goated. The fact that Star, yeah. I mean, Star Constellation was one thing I love about Reverend is just the schemes, like how the dynamics work. One person outsmarts this person, so other person outsmarts this person, but oh no, this other person has actually thought of this and outsmarted, and like the dynamics are so good. And speaking of other Star Constellation, she's also one of my favorite venerables. I love her schemes, I love her personality. Like I just love Star Constellation. Honestly, if not that she's so old and she's such she's someone that is just too smart to fall in love, like too smart to actually end, and too righteous and whatever to end up Fang Yuan. I feel like she's the perfect fit for Fang Yuan because of just how smart, just how competent, powerful, and just how tragic she is as well. Like she's someone who has dedicated her entire life to Heavenly Court and the supremacy of humans, and Fang Yuan is the opposite. He has dedicated everybody else to his own life and to what he wants. And for someone so selfish like Fang Yuan, to me someone so selfless like Star Constellation, the dynamic just makes it so perfect. Like so perfect. And I just love Star Constellation generally. Then Reckless Savage. Did I say more? A man must be cool. Dude. Oh god, Reckless Savage is so cool. He is so cool. Like I have never seen, The guy has so much aura. I was talking to my ex at it, like my current ex, but like she read Reverend Science too, and she and I would always talk about Spectra, Reckless Savage, and especially how disappointed he was when he found out his inheritor was a twink, like Fang Yuan, because Fang Yuan had the sovereign immortal body and he looked so feminine and so pretty and everything. And Reckless Savage like, no, 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 a man must be. Why are you? I love him so much. The guy is so good. And he's also smart. He shows that a guy can be a grunt, like a guy can be, someone who is strong and buff and everything, but doesn't mean he's dumb. He also had his own schemes and he also won in his own schemes. So love Reckless Savage. Then we have Red Lotus. Red Lotus, volume 5 with the Fate War. Like Red Lotus is the GOAT for real, and his backstory is really tragic with his wife and everything like that. Goated character for real. Then we have favorite Goo. Let me start with Wisdom Goo. Clearly, Wisdom Goo came in clutch. Like Reverend Exciting volume 4, Wisdom Goo was like the MVP of volume 4. And eventually the Goos use eventually like fizzled out because we started seeing more powerful Goo and more useful Goo. But at volume 4, with Fang Yuan just becoming an immortal zombie rank 6, having a rank 9 Goo like Wisdom Goo really was very useful. It meant everything. Fang Yuan was able to deduce Goo recipes. He was able to help himself, Tai Bai Yusheng. He was able to help. What's the name of this guy? Langia Land Spirit, also one of my favorite characters, really goated old man. So he was able to do a lot of things with Wisdom Goo. So very useful Goo. Then Spring Autumn Cicada, the OG, the one that started it all. Although it betrayed Fang Yuan because it had Devon's will and everything like that, and it became useless like halfway through the story. But it was just like Spring Autumn Cicada, bro. It gave us Reverend Insanity. Like it helped Fang Yuan in the tightest moments, and it came in clutch many times. So definitely one of my favorites. Then we have Fixed Immortal Travel. Now this is the most, like, when it comes to utility, this Goo is the most useful. If there was any Goo that I could take without having to feed it and without having to like nurture it and everything, this will be my top 3 Goo to take. Like, it is so good. It is so useful. It is like Fang Yuan use this thing so much, and honestly, it is like you can go anywhere. This Goo is so broken, except of course the limitations that I do, but like it is actually a very useful Goo in the world of Reverend Insanity, honestly. But eventually, with the speed, the time needed for you to travel and a bunch of other limitations, and it became sort of further. But for the time in which it was like it existed, it was actually it was carrying Fang Yuan, literally carrying him from location to location. So yes, Fixed Immortal Travel is really good, and of course the refinement of Fixed Immortal Travel still has to be one of the best. Whipping the phoenix and becoming, it's not whipping up the dragon and becoming a phoenix on another day. I've forgotten the quote, but still one of my favorite Reverend Science moments. Fang Yuan refining Fixed Immortal Travel. Then of course we have Liquor Worm. Liquor Worm was like really helpful to Fang Yuan early on. No one really likes to put respect on Liquor Worm's name now because Fang Yuan is a big shot. But I'm sure if Fang Yuan is writing his inheritance or his like memoir or whatever, and he's writing his autobiography, he has to acknowledge Liquor Worm, because Liquor Worm was like carrying him throughout the early period. Volume 1 and volume 2 low key, like Liquor Worm was really helping him until he learned the flesh blood whatever unity, and then him and Brian Bing were doing dual cultivation. Liquor Worm was the GOAT like for early part of Reverend Insanity. So let's all respect Liquor Worm. Liquor Worm was really up there. Then Perseverance Goo, just mostly I feel like Perseverance Goo is mostly forgettable, but because of what it represents, the themes of Reverend Insanity, and how Fang Yuan acquired it in Reverse Slow River, how he used it as a core for some of his immortal killer moves and immortal Goo houses. I really have to respect for Perseverance Goo. Really, like, if not for it, like the use is, I think it's just the use, like its ability is to preserve, to make effects last longer, to preserve. I don't even fully remember the ability of perseverance glue. I think it's to make sure either the effects last longer, something doesn't fully deteriorate, or makes it more sturdy. But apart from that, it's not. But as a core of Immortal Killer Moves and Immortal Go Houses and just what it represents, really one of my favorites go. Then last is Fate Go. I don't need to elaborate. You all know why Fate Go is one of my favorites. Let me stop. Let me leave it at that. Then we have Go Immortal Organizations. Let's see. Let me start with Heavenly Court. Heavenly Court. The introduction, the execution, everything was really good. Initially, when I first thought of Heavenly Court, I thought it was like heaven or something. Like it was like a different realm, like a different dimension. And I think maybe that was what gushing started with, because if you remember TNT Mountain, when they were talking about why they could not invade Immortal Blessed Land, they were talking about how it's like a staircase to like Heavenly Court and ascending to Heavenly Court. There's where the language that was being used seemed to mean like we know that we are like Heavenly Court is a different realm. You know how Shansha, like you ascend, you now go to a completely different realm and you leave the lower realm. I thought maybe that was how Heavenly Court would be, but apparently like it's actually an organization. I think I prefer it that way. Like Heavenly Court being an organization that has its own problems, just the largest good immortal organization makes sense. I really like the execution of that. Heavenly Court really good. Shadow Sect also really good. You know, my goat made it, so it's good. Shadow Sect actually is, I think, at least when it first started out, my favorite Go organization. So good, so mysterious, and the big reveal at the end, like everything was all spectral souls. They're all spectral souls, spirit souls, like mind blowing. Like I feel like I would have appreciated it more if I wasn't spoiled, but someone spoiled it for me actually, and that was really terrible. But the execution was still really good. Then Zombie Alliance. What else do I have to say? It was all part of Spectral Soul's plan. Longevity Heaven. Honestly, I feel like they are the biggest frauds. Like they are such big bombs. You'd expect them to be better, but they are such frauds actually. So I don't respect Longevity Heaven in the slightest. But at least they are still on the list, so they are still better than some other organizations that exist. Then of course, Heaven and Earth Great Love Alliance. You know, made by the Venerable himself, Great Love, Immortal Venerable, and what do I have to say? Like, it is. I think the entire organization, one, is efficient, like a well-oiled machine. Fang Yuan really brought capitalism to the good world, like true capitalism, and just the whole concept itself is just funny to me. So it is still one of my most memorable good immortal organizations. Now let's move to favorite concepts, like things that were introduced into Reverend, maybe early on, actually later additions that I really like Blessed Lands. Honestly, Blessed Lands have to be like, they really carried the ranks. Like they elevated the plot of Reverend from just a mere cultivation Xiansha novel to actual legit cultivation, to something really unique, especially with the management of the Blessed Land and how it affects the Go Immortals cultivation. Like, you've taken cultivation to the literal sense. Like, cultivation is not just about cultivating your core essence, your immortal, whatever, your aperture, whatever. It's about actually cultivating, like planting things and growing things and improving the ecosystem and just all of those things. The thoughts that goes into that helps you to grow as a good immortal, and that's a really lovely concept. Dao marks also, I didn't initially get it, I didn't really like it at first, but I grew to appreciate it more, especially with the power creep in the story, like how characters became insanely powerful and a lot of goo, and like, of course, like, how else can you differentiate powerful characters? You get characters in rank 8, like there are so many characters in rank 8 later introduced. How do you differentiate them? You have to use dial marks, and everything. And with the tribulations and calamities, which is also one of my favorite concepts, by the way, giving you more dial marks, it's like balancing all that. Everyone's will, removing the surplus and adding deficits or something like that. Removing deficit, adding surplus. I can't remember how it is said, but yeah, everyone's will is unbiased. Then of course, everyone's will is also one of my favorite concepts. The old idea that everything was actually everyone's will. That plot twist, everything like that, normally it shouldn't work actually, because it sort of should remove agency from the characters if everyone's will is involved, but the way the author executed it was really good. And the whole thing of Fang Yuan being the pawn of the Venerables, I feel like there was a retcon there, but it still makes sense. And not only do I forgive it, I actually like the choice. So to what it is due, gushing actually cooked with that. After that, let me see. What else do I want to talk about? Yes, worst concepts. I'll be the first to say it. I don't like immortal go houses. As they were initially cool as concepts, but when I started learning more about immortal, it just felt unnecessary, and it felt like, of course, go houses are sort of unique, but how do they fight with each other for the most part? It just feels it's a bit uncreative. Like a go house, another go house, pa 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 pa. They smash on each other. Of course, they have abilities, but it's more interesting seeing Go Immortals actually fight than seeing Go Houses, seeing them use Go Houses. And Go Houses just, it felt lazy, let me just put it that way. Like, especially because, like, when you see a Go House, it's either a Go House is dominating the Go Immortal, but for the most part, the Go Immortal actually holds his own. You begin to wonder, with the resources and effort and everything it takes to create a Go House, like, what's the point? The author makes an effort to explain the importance of Go Houses many times, but I feel like if he actually, like, cared about Go, he would put a lot of, like, I can think of a lot of concepts that would work well as Go Houses, but it just didn't stick the landing for me. I just didn't, except for some Go Houses, like the Refinement Cauldron, and some special Go Houses that I really like it's like 88 Truyang Palace. Like, that is a Go House that I respect. Like, if you stick to Go Houses that have similar, like, unique abilities and unique natures like that, Truyang building, really unique. Heavenly Court, Heaven Overseeing Tower, unique, love it. Refinement Cauldron, love it. But when you start seeing a lot of these Go Houses that are dumb as hell, and all they do is just smash on each other, it just feels, I don't know, I just didn't like it. Then attainment levels initially, I don't think it was meant to be, the old dream realms, and how it became so important, and how it became, I don't know if the author intended for it to be like that initially, because when we're in volume 2 and we're talking about attainment level, and Fang Yuan was like, he's a master, and it didn't seem like it was that big of a deal, and until later on, when we started learning more about Quasi and Quasi Grandmaster, all of those things, Supreme Grandmaster. Initially, I was still like, okay, that makes sense. But when you start acquiring them through Dream Realms and everything, you could tell that the author was moving somewhere now. Like, he needed Fang Yuan's attainment level to be high enough in many other areas because of the many Gu he had in his possession, so he could meet up with the enemies he was facing and everything. But the old Dream Realms exploration to get attainment level, I don't really like that concept generally. Yeah. So now let me give my overall review of Reverend Insanity. I've talked about a lot of things. I've yapped and talked about things I like, things I don't like. I've left out so many other things which I feel like I'll make separate videos about. For example, top 10 good Reverend Insanity. For example, ranking the 10 venerables in terms of intelligence, strength, and just like general compilability. Just many things that I feel like Reverend Insanity is a content glitch. I can make so many videos about Reverend Insanity, but that's only if you guys are willing to listen. Like, if you guys really like Reverend Insanity, let me know in the comments below, and then I'll make videos about that as well. But just generally, Reverend Insanity has so many things I would like to talk about, and my overall review for the story is 9.5 out of 10. Like, it's not the before I would put it like 100 over 10. Actually, like, Reverend Insanity was the best thing I've ever read. It still is the best thing I've ever read, to be honest. Like, Reverend Insanity is still my favorite story of all time. But when I went back to read it, like, and then I started spotting, I will admit that Reverend Insanity is not a perfect story. It has some flaws, you get. So that's why it's 9.5 out of 10. But it is one of the best stories of all time. Fang Yuan easily is the 10 over 10 character. In fact, a 100 over 10 character. It is easily the best part of Reverend Insanity. In a lot of stories, you see that the favorite characters for a lot of people is like maybe the side character, or but there is no reader of Reverend Insanity that will say their favorite character is not Fang Yuan. And it's not that they are not good characters. There are many great characters in Reverend Insanity. But Fang Yuan is just such a good protagonist, such an excellent, perfect protagonist. It doesn't matter if you believe Lord of Mysteries is better than Reverend Insanity. It doesn't matter if you believe another anime on that web novel is better. There is no main character like Fang Yuan. I will make a video separate talking about Fang Yuan as a character and what makes him so good and what makes him the best character I have ever read and likely the best character in fiction. But yes, Reverend Insanity 9.5/10, which I think is fair, still one of the best novels out there. And if you haven't read Reverend Science and you've even made it this far into this video, first of all, what is wrong with you? How can you make it this far into this video and you've not read Reverend Science? But if you have not read Reverend Science, please read it. And if you maybe you stopped at some point and you are looking for motivation, just pick it up and read it. Please pick it up and read it. Thank you. Now, my concluding thoughts, I don't really have much concluding thoughts. I feel like I've pretty much talked for so long, so I'll just say read it again. Then I plan to read Shadow Slave and or Lord of Mysteries. Please comment below which one I should start reading, because I plan to make daily shorts talking about, like, to go over what I read every day and just talk about my questions, my predictions and all of those things. But I genuinely need you guys' counsel. Which do you think is better to read first, Lord of Mysteries or Shadow Slave? Thank you. I actually read like 40 chapters of Lord of Mysteries, but I dropped, and I read like 10 chapters of Shadow Slave, but then I dropped. So which one do you think I should pick up again to read? Then also, I would like to ask you guys for like video recommendations and ideas. Like, what would you guys have me talk about? What do you guys want me to talk about on this channel moving forward? Things that, I mean, maybe you want me to review a novel, a manhwa, just generally thoughts. I have things I want to talk about, but as readers or as watchers as well, there are things you guys also want to talk about. Let me know, as well. So yeah, that's all I have to say today. I actually didn't want this to be like more than 20 minutes long, but I feel like it's already over like 40 minutes, and that's crazy. I can yap about Reverend Science for over an hour, for 2 hours, for an entire day straight, and I wouldn't get tired, because Reverend Science is just that peak. So yes, let me end the video here. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.